Hello, everybody. This is Coach Keith KEPPNER, and you're listening to Hope, Health, Optimism, and Purposeful Entertainment. With this show, we talk about the mind and the body, everything that goes in getting the most out of life that we can. I myself come from the background not of a psychologist or healthcare professional. I'm a professional boxing coach, business owner. I own KEPPNER Boxing Gym with my wife, and I'm an Athens, Georgia native. Through my own experience of working with champion athletes in what is arguably one of the hardest sports in the world, I've gained a certain level of knowledge and understanding of what it takes for us to get the most out of our minds and bodies. Also, through my own experience and challenges, I've had to gain a certain level of understanding and knowledge of myself and also self-education to get to the position in life where I am, where I'm a functioning person because of having a chronic illness for half my life. With this show, I want to talk about you and why you will succeed. You will succeed at whatever it is that you're working towards right now. I don't care if you're a student in college, if you're an athlete, if you're a mother or a father with a certain goal, a business owner. In Athens, Georgia, we have a beautiful entrepreneurial spirit. Whatever it may be, maybe self-enlightenment, I'm here to tell you that you will succeed. And I'm going to list through today reasons why you, listening, will succeed at what it is that you are working on right now and striving for. So let's jump into why you will succeed. First off, you were born with all the advantages. Or not. I know maybe some of you listening said, oh no, I wasn't born with any advantage at all. Well, we could perhaps make a unique discussion out of that, but we won't even bother. Whether you're born with good health or bad health, you were born with an advantage. So many of us who were born with certain issues, health issues, or maybe acquired them early on in life, many people throughout history have gained a certain advantage from those, quote, disabilities, while others have not been able to overcome them. And that's not a judgment on those people that haven't been able to do that at all. But it just simply says that you are not limited completely by how you were born, by what health you have. There are so many stories of children that were born weak and sickly who grew up to be strong champion athletes, let's say, or kids that born that maybe didn't appear to have all the mental faculties that eventually developed them. And now, again, this is not a judgment call, but it's simply don't limit yourself. If you can hear my voice right now and you can understand what I'm saying, you were born with an advantage. Also, whether you're born in the United States or not, you were born with an advantage. If you're born in the USA, tell yourself you were born with an advantage. You were born in the richest country in the history of the world with all the opportunities you could ever want. And I don't care if you were born in the poorest hospital in the country. Just by nature of being in this country, you had all the advantages. And this is not an overly patriotic statement. It is a fact. If you were born in certain countries in the world, let's just even say North Korea, it would be very, very difficult. Not impossible, but extremely difficult for you to succeed at anything that you wanted to work at, possibly because of the limitations and the suppression in that society. Now, let's say you weren't born in America. You have an advantage. Many times people will use I wasn't born here as an excuse, but while others, and we all know of them, have that immigrant mentality where they will work so hard and they will outwork a native person to get to a higher level, let's say, of success financially. I remember early starting off with KEPPNER Boxing, I adopted that mentality of I'm going to treat this like I have that immigrant mentality. I'm not going to be someone who just is not grateful for all the opportunities I have living here. You know, I lived in Mexico for 2 years, so I got to see a little bit of what real poverty is about. So coming back up here, I tried my best to condition myself. I'm going to have that immigrant mentality, that work hard, take everything that you can and do everything that you can. to achieve the American dream. And with that type of drive and that type of framing of my circumstances is what helped me steer through a lot of the tough times. Now let's talk about another reason why you will succeed. Your background growing up. Either you had a background that will push you to success or will pull you to success. Now, what do I mean by that? Either you had a background that was so negative and so painful that it can only push you towards the life that you want to have and the goals that you want to achieve, or you were raised with maybe a great example that will pull you, help lead you to exactly the things you need to do to have more success in your life. And maybe you had a mixture of the two. They're not exclusive. Many of us have beautiful models in our life that we can follow. And when I say a model, I mean simply somebody that did things the right way or did certain things the right way, that if you mimic that, you can mimic their level of success. And then we all have people in our lives that did things the wrong way, or at least in a certain area that didn't have any success and achievement in that area, or very minimum, or they were met with failure time and time again. And we can model what not to do from them. Let's say just in the area of finances, if you want to grow your finances, don't do what people who don't have money do. Don't watch the TV that people watch that are poor, let's say. If you spend I don't know what time it comes on, but middays watching Jerry Springer, you probably aren't setting yourself up for, let's say, financial success. Also, I would argue mental success and spiritual success, but just in terms of finances, let's say. Model what people do who are successful in whatever it is that you want to do: finances, family, relationships, self-discovery, enjoyment of life, and use the model and the example that people give you that aren't living that type of life, and do the exact opposite. Use that as a gauge. You have a lesson that you can learn from every single person you come across, and that lesson is either teaching you what to do or what not to do. But every man and woman certainly has a lesson to teach you. Another reason is you've had successes in the past before. You have succeeded. Now, I know maybe some people listening are down in the dumps now so hard, you believe that's BS. I know I've been there. You think that's a load of crap. I haven't succeeded at anything before. Well, if you really start to think about it, you can remember something. I don't care how small it is, I'm sure you can remember something. Again, if you can understand the words coming out of my mouth right now, I assume that you speak the English language. You've had success with that. You've learned one language at least. You've learned things, and learning in and of itself is a seed of a success, and a success in and of itself. But at the very least, it's the seed that you can get any achievement you want, anything that you want to accomplish in your life. You start out by learning how to do it and then did it. So if you know anything, know how to drive a car, know how to walk, know how to feed yourself, know how to think, know how to understand the words coming out of my mouth, you've had a success. But I'm sure you could illustrate a whole lot of areas that you've had a pretty good level of success in, whether that be in some hobby you've had, or maybe in some profession, or maybe some type of relationship success, or maybe the way you've raised your kids, you quantify that as a success because of how proud you are of how they've turned out. It's easy, though, to remember the failures, and evolutionarily, humans develop like this, and it is important and was important that we develop like this. If we don't remember that, for instance, that snake is poisonous, and if it bites it will kill us, we're not going to survive very long. That needs to be very strong in our minds. If we don't remember that, let's say, if you walk this way during the nighttime, you might fall off the side of a cliff. If you don't remember that negative, then you're not going to last long enough to pass on your genes. So it is important and has been important evolutionary to remember these things, and that's why it's so easy to remember. But I don't know about you, but there's been times in my life, my late teen years and even early 20s, where going to sleep, I would be filled with thoughts of how certain things didn't work out or of negative experiences that happened, even small little altercations that were just maybe certain conversations that didn't work out or certain embarrassments. And this would flood me and fill me up before I went to bed. And obviously, you can imagine how my sleep was. It wasn't exactly the most restorative it could be. So remind yourself of successes you have had. And again, don't BS yourself. You've had them, no matter who you are and no matter how tough you think your life is right now. Now, let's talk about how you had these successes in the past. Let's talk about some different principles that you applied and that you actually practiced, whether you knew them or not. That's like a lot of the strategies and techniques to do certain things. Let's say an athlete does. Sometimes they're not even aware of them. They just almost do them naturally, or maybe they stumbled across that pattern and they don't actually know what it is they're doing, which obviously doesn't make them a very good teacher. But it doesn't matter because they're actualizing those things. And so in these areas, I want you to understand that you have actually practiced each and every one of these principles I'm about to say in whatever it is that you've accomplished. The first one is consistency and being persistent. It's a great Napoleon Hill quote, who was the author of the book Think and Grow Rich, which is, I believe, one of the top 5 sold books in the world, in the history of the world. And he said the key for success is patient, persistent perspiration. So being patient, never stopping, and that perspiration, that extreme hard work. But let's just boil down right now to being consistent and persistent. If you say you've never been consistent, well, that sounds like you've been consistent at something. Maybe you've been consistent at not being consistent, but there is a consistency there. The same thing is true if you say, for instance, I've only failed in my life. Everything's been a failure. Nothing's worked out. Well, you have been successful and consistent and possibly pretty persistent of doing the same things that equal that failure. Remind yourself of this whenever you start to participate in this extremely negative and counterproductive self-talk. For instance, with being consistent and persistent, I can give this example in so many things in my life, but one thing that initially pops into my mind is my relationship with my wife, who is also my business partner and also the mother of my beautiful daughter, Lena. Where the consistency and being persistent really showed true for me a little while ago, maybe going on, I guess, 6 years ago, where it really showed me something was to be consistent and persistent with her. Because when we first dated, we dated for a very short time, and then that relationship ended for certain personal reasons that were completely valid. But throughout a year and a half of me courting her, of going after her and being consistent and persistent there, trying to almost win her back, it really showed me what I had learned through reading different books and things like that about how important that is. I wouldn't have this extremely beautiful and healthy relationship that I'm so proud of and grateful for, and our extremely beautiful and healthy daughter that I'm obviously so grateful for, as we all are who have children, if I was not persistent. And there were many times I wanted to give up, just like there are many times right now with whatever it is that you are after, whatever goal you are seeking, where you want to give up, where you feel you've done everything you can do and there's nothing more. And everything's just stacked against you and your fate has already been written. Well, thank God I didn't believe that for long enough to give up. And I say that same thing goes for you, that you will succeed. And if you keep on it long enough and consistently enough, you will achieve it. Number 2, reason for why you've been successful in the past is that you did all that you could do, or at least all that you thought you could do. And in order to do that, you had to actually eventually become more. We do this with anything. If we want to, let's say when we start high school, we want to actually end up graduating, we end up becoming a completely different individual most of the times than we were when we started. Same thing goes for college. Same thing goes for, let's say, starting a business or a relationship. The relationships we have as, let's say, teenagers is a completely different picture as young adults or mature adults. So you gave it all you had, but then you also became more in order to have that success. It's important to remember that if you don't grow or change yourself, nothing else will grow or change in your life. Your circumstances are only so much of a factor. The biggest circumstance or the biggest factor to any success in your life is you. There are people who have had far worse conditions, far greater challenges than you ever could imagine, than I ever could have personally imagined. And they've achieved a whole lot more, have a whole deeper level of fulfillment and happiness than somebody who has given everything, who was given the loving family, given a huge allowance, went to the best schools, and their life did not end up the same way as that person who we think of as underprivileged. But they grew from within. They truly grew true value and made themselves valuable. You have done this in the past when you have succeeded at anything, no matter how small it is. Again, if you have succeeded at learning, you have been a success and you can achieve whatever it is that you right now are after. The third reason you succeeded in the past is you were steadfast, you were stern in what outcome you wanted, but you were flexible in your approach. That's an important thing to remember. Oftentimes when we create a plan to achieve something, or we think in order to get somewhere, it should be this certain way. Or let's give the analogy of getting to a destination. You have it locked in your brain that I'm going to take this road up to that road and then turn here and then turn there and then it'll be right there. And let's say there's some road work and you have to take a detour. Oftentimes when we don't achieve something, we let that little road work or that little incident throw us completely off course and give up. But the times that we have been successful and the times that you have been successful, you have found a way around the obstacle. And sometimes you've busted straight through the obstacle. The obstacle has become the way, has become the catalyst for growth, and gave you everything you needed, demanded of yourself that growth that created the person that you need to become. Going back to the second principle. With myself, in achieving getting over a chronic illness, Lyme disease, that I battled for half my life. And in order to get to any level of mediocre success in boxing with myself, I've had to do the same thing, most powerfully with my health. I've tried so many different strategies, my family and me, through antibiotic treatment, through different supplementation, through different health techniques. Kept trying and trying and trying and trying. And with something as severe as a chronic illness that will eventually take away your whole life from you, that gives you a deep enough motivation, a strong enough why to keep changing your approach and to never give up until you've succeeded. And that's the number 4 principle, is the reason why you have succeeded in the past before is you had a powerful why. Why you kept going and made it through all the obstacles, learned the things that you need to learn, dealt with the things you need to dealt with, and persisted consistently enough to achieve it. What was your why? What motivated you? What juiced you up to succeed? Was your back up against the wall? You know, if you're going to be going against an opponent Oftentimes, the most dangerous animal or opponent is an animal or someone who has their back up against the wall, who has nowhere else to go except forward, and you are in the way. That person or individual that burns the bridges, takes away any escape route. They sink the boats, and they say the only way we're going to succeed is either if we win or if we die. With that type of resolve, with that powerful enough of a why, almost anything is possible. Maybe you achieved whatever it is that you have achieved in the past because you wanted to prove somebody wrong. And maybe that's why you'll succeed now, because you want to prove someone that you could do it. Someone who maybe you're motivated by people saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not capable of that, you're not that type of person. And you're going to prove them wrong. And in doing so, you will prove yourself right. You will prove that you truly are capable, that you truly are good enough, that you truly do have the ability, and that they should have believed in you. And now they do, now that you've succeeded, and they will believe you when you have achieved the goal that you're after. But all along the way, they'll second guess you. And then when you finally have reached that peak of success, they'll say, I knew you could have done it. I was counting on you. I believed you could do it. Maybe in the past when you've succeeded, your why was you felt like it was your mission. It was your life's passion, your life's objective, why you were put on this planet. I remember this was a lot of my drive to get me through a lot of tough times, was that I was born not to be this type of person. I was born to be something better, something greater. And if you're religious, what father or mother, if you believe in a creator, would want to see their children not actualize the most that they're capable of and achieve the most beautiful life possible, where they can be the most and give the most? What loving father or mother would not want to see this if you believe in a creator? And if you don't, if you're pure hard-nosed science, well then we are all the product of billions of years of evolution. We are at the utmost peak of development of life on this planet. If not in any other way, cognitively. The brain is the most amazing thing to come out of life on this planet, the human brain. And we are all gifted with this at birth. And if you can understand the words I am saying right now, you have control of it. You have capabilities that you have not completely utilized yet. And the times that you have had successes, you have utilized more of it. And when you achieve whatever it is that you are after in your life that you will succeed in, you will use more and more of your mind. Maybe your why in the past has been you did it for someone else. You did it out of love, for family, for your children. Any of us with kids know that that's powerful enough of a motivation. It's powerful enough of a motivation for you to die. With myself, on a lighter note, this has been a motivation for myself with KEPPNER Boxing. When I started out, I had my own self goals and trying to achieve something with it and give value to people. But then when I met who would be my future wife, and then, as I mentioned earlier, our relationship broke off for a period of time. And I remember talking to a therapist that gave me a beautiful piece of insight. And that was that I can either wallow around in the fact that things didn't work out, or I can grow as a person and become more and grow what I'm doing, so that if we do meet further down the road and do get back together, I will be everything that she ever wanted, and I will be everything that I want to be. And this is what I did. When our relationship ended for that time, for about a year and a half, I dove head first into growing the gym from being in the back of a fitness facility in Jefferson, where it was just a dirty ring and a couple broken bags hung up where there was blood on the wall and dust everywhere. I cleaned up that whole place, started doing kids classes, training kids, and then very quickly got noticed and partnered up with some people and moved up to a gym on Atlanta Highway that for a short time served its purpose. Then I outgrew that as I grew what I did, and then opened up KEPPNER Boxing in 2013. And very shortly after, me and my wife ended up getting back together. We weren't married at the time, but me and my future wife got back together. And she came in with me on the business, and then we grew it together with her expertise and experience of managing gyms. Because I did it out of love for her. I wanted to give her something. I wanted her to have something, her own gym, something that she could call her own, where she could have that ownership. And her and I both have that, and I'm so pleased and happy that I was able to give that to her. And if I didn't have that motivation, I don't believe I would have had enough spark to make it through those tough times, to be consistent and persistent, to do all that I could do and to grow myself so that I could be more and create more. And also to have the humility to be flexible enough in my approach, but stern in my outcomes so that I did achieve it. That was my powerful why for myself. What were your whys for why you have succeeded in the past? Now, why are you going to succeed? If you've listened to the majority of me speaking to today, you most certainly have some reasons why whatever it is you're working at, better health, better finances, better family, better relationships, more enjoyment and fulfillment in life, you now, if you didn't before, should have more clarity for why these things are possible and why you are possible. Remember, if they're possible for somebody else, they are also possible for you. Don't sell yourself short. Don't tell yourself a limiting story that that's for people like that or they got lucky. When you say they got lucky, you might not mean it in the spirit, but if anything, you're actually downing on that person's hard work and that person's ability to shift and swing with the times and actually bust through to achieve success. Without meaning to, you're undermining everything they've done by saying they got lucky. And remember what the philosopher Seneca said, that luck is mostly when preparedness meets opportunity. If you never prepare and never put in that work and never dedicate yourself to something and have a powerful enough why for why you will work to the bone to achieve, then when the opportunity comes, you will be ill prepared and possibly be made a fool out of. Now, I know that's not something that you want for yourself, and I don't want that for you. So I demand that you demand of yourself to commit fully now to whatever it is that you're after. And if you're having trouble identifying what it is you're truly after, do the rocking chair test. At the end of your life, think about what it is you will have want to have done, the life you would have want to have led. Another way to think about it is, what would you want someone to say at your funeral? And I know this may sound very macabre and sad, but it's a cold, hard fact that we all will pass. And this is part of the beauty of life. This is why we value the beautiful moments that we do have. If we had an endless stream of them that lasted for infinity, there would be no value to it. This is why every second has value. This is why every moment and interaction has extreme, utmost importance. But think about what you would want somebody to say at your funeral about you, about what type of person you were, and what are the things that you've done, how you were to the people in your lives, what was your disposition, and also, what did you accomplish? What type of example were you for your family and your friends? Remember, you will only pass this way just once. Any good that you can do or any kindness that you can show, Do it now. Don't defer nor neglect it, for you shall not pass this way again. You've been listening to Hope, Health, Optimism, and Purposeful Entertainment. This is Coach Keith KEPPNER saying thank you for listening.